Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and I am pumped to be joined by the play-by-play voice of the Flyers, Jim Jackson, who's joining us from sunny Florida, but we made him come inside from his balcony view to join us. Jim, I'm sorry about that.
I had a great view for you guys all set up, but too much noise. I mean, Jordan, I thought, with the broadcast voices we have, we could overcome that, but I guess not.
I guess not. But we are thrilled to have you on, Jim, to talk state of the Flyers, where this team stands pretty much a quarter into the season. And Jim, maybe over these last two games, we've seen the volatile nature of this offense. They score a season-high 6 goals in a win over the Devils, and then they get blanked the very next game. Could this be par for the course, Jim, with this team? It's going to be a little up and down offensively, but as long as maybe the defense and the goaltending is there, they'll have a chance to win.
Yeah, it's really tough, Jordan, to really evaluate much of anything in the NHL through the first quarter outside of Colorado. Colorado's good. One regulation loss, but every other team has had some kind of surge or drop back pretty much. I mean, Calgary maybe hasn't had a surge, but almost all the teams have had good weeks, good games, bad games, good games followed by bad games followed by good games. It's been that kind of year. I mean, you could throw a blanket over basically 31 of the teams. And so I don't know if we over analyze this all. I think it's just kind of going to be par for the course in this Olympic year with the condensed schedule and with the salary cap and everything that's happened here over the last couple of years. There's a lot of parity in the league, and so it's going to be balanced. As for the Flyers, though, when you look through the 21 games so far, they have certainly the one pattern is not a lot of shots allowed, not a lot of shots for, not a lot of goals for, not a lot of goals against. So I guess you start to think that maybe this is just going to be the way it is, but then you have the explosion against the Devils, and you start thinking, hey, maybe the offense is catching fire. But it's not something that any team in the league outside of Colorado has gone through. They've all gone through that. And so I think we just have to kind of get through this to see where we're headed. I will say that I think you'd rather be in a situation where you are good defensively and looking for the offense as opposed to the other way around as you approach the playoffs, as we get moving forward in the season, because obviously with that defensive hockey, you're in structure and you can win with that. Whereas 6-5, 7-6, you're not going to win a lot of games in the playoffs that way. So I think that's good. That's a good foundation to build off of. But there's no doubt Rick Tocchet wants more consistent offense from his team, making plays without risking defense. If they can get to that happy medium, we'll be in a good spot.
I think everyone, Jim, is really wondering how much different is this team from last year's team under John Tortorella. And I was looking at the numbers today. This year's team has actually scored only 1 fewer goal than last year's team through 21 games, but they've given up 12 fewer goals. And, Jim, that's where I'm really going towards more the fact that they're preventing goals. They're getting goaltending, which I think we've been pleading for this team to have more goaltending. And I think the system under Rick Tocchet is helping them defend better. It's just a matter of the offense coming around. Where do you stand on this team? Do you take more out of the defense and the goaltending, or are you more concerned about the offense?
Well, Jordan, we've been doing these shows for a lot of years now, and I think probably for the last 3 or 4, I've said if the Flyers can get better goaltending, the Flyers can improve their power play, they'll be a playoff team. Well, the power play was looking improved, hasn't been great the last 4 or 5 games, although in saying that, it's even looked better in the last 4 or 5 than last year. It just hasn't been able to finish here over the last 4 or 5, and they haven't gotten enough power plays in the last 4 or 5 games, only 1.5 per game, something like that. So they have to be doing more at 5-on-5 to draw penalties, to get more power plays. I think we can all agree that the power play has been better this year than it was last year. I think they want it to continue on the upward and not start sagging back downward. So we'll see about that. The goaltending has clearly been better. Dan Volatile has been spectacular. He's among the league leaders in all the important figures. Sam Ersson is still trying to find his game a little bit, but he's been involved in a whole lot of low event games where there's 15, 16, 17 shots as you move into the late third period, but maybe 10 or 11 of those are really good chances. Those are tough games for goalies. He hasn't had many. Just the Carolina game comes to mind where he saw a lot of shots. So, we'll hold judgment on Sam. But in general, the goaltending has been improved. So the two areas we talked about improvement, there has been drastic improvement in goaltending, some improvement in the power play. And the Flyers have found themselves on many days through the first month and a half, 2 months of this season in a playoff spot, certainly contending for one. So they are there. Now, all that can get better. There's no question, especially the power play. And especially, I think, the 5-on-5 play driving, getting to draw more penalties, getting more scoring chances, getting more goals at 5-on-5. I think that's what they're driving for and hopefully can get to. But as you said, as I said, to have a solid defensive base, to be getting good goaltending, if that continues, that's a much better place to be as you head toward the second half of the season and starting to think about playoffs.
And Jim, just how critical has the addition of Trevor Zegras been in terms of their offensive effort? I think everyone's thinking and hoping that some other guys are going to start contributing more and then the goals start to come a little bit more often. But Zegras has certainly played his part.
He has. I mean, Danny Briere had a really good offseason. It wasn't one that people talked about too much, but you talk about Zegras, Vladar, Dvorak. I mean, those three have all been huge for this team. Juleson served his role as well. So they've made some good pickups. But when you talk about Zegras, I mean, he's added that element that many figured Matvei Michkov would deliver and did deliver last year. Is still trying to find his game, but Zegras has really been a force. I knew he was skilled. We all did. I saw him in the World Junior dominate the tournament for the U.S. team that won in 21, and I saw a little of him in Anaheim. We didn't get to see many Ducks games, but when you saw him, especially his first 2 years, you saw he had tremendous talent. Injuries kind of set him back the last couple of years, and he was trying to get his role back with the team. But I will say this. I mean, he's more skilled than I thought he was. I mean, I saw that in training camp. Just watching him in some of the drills, some of the scrimmages, I'm like, wow, this guy's he's uber talented. He's got some moves that I just didn't know he had. So he's been big that way. He certainly has helped the power play, and he has helped their 5-on-5 offense. They were hoping for him to be maybe a center. He just hasn't been able to get the face-off under his belt, master that. He's still in the 30% range, 30 to 40, as opposed to getting into the 40 to 50% range. So he's ended up on the wing. That's partially because of him, partially because Dvorak's been so good. But they had to, they haven't found that role in the middle for him, but it doesn't matter. He's still been so much of an impact player from the wing and on the power play. So a huge pickup. And also he's added personality. He's added life. You only have to be around Trevor for about 10 seconds to realize the guy's got all kinds of energy and personality. So he's helped in that way too.
And I think it's been really interesting to see how much he has meshed with Rick Tocchet. Tocchet has talked to Jim about challenging Zegras before the season and said, do you want to care about winning games or do you want to care about clicks on social media? And he wasn't saying that's what Zegras wanted in Anaheim, but it's kind of what he became known for was highlight reel plays, Michigan goals, creating a stir online with his highlight reel plays. But he said, if you do these certain things, we'll start winning here in Philadelphia. And we've seen Zegras' high-end skill, but I think we've seen buy-in too. He's much more of a full length of the rink player than I anticipated him being, and that's really what's opened my eyes.
Yeah, he's still learning the game defensively. He'll make mistakes here and there, but the effort's there. He's made some good defensive plays, as you said. I thought that was a great line. Are you here for the clicks or are you here for wins? I mean, it's a great line. And Zegras is also an example. I mean, he's thriving, right? He had 21 points, third player since 2000 to have 21 points in his first 20 games as a Flyer. So he's thriving. And yet I still read, most of it's on social media, mind you, but I still read all this, how Tocchet's limiting Matvei Michkov. Well, how can he be letting Trevor Zegras, a skilled player, thrive and is limiting Matvei? No. Basically, it's Zegras has played better and has played really well, and Mich is still trying to find his game. So it doesn't have to do with the coaching or anything limiting Michkov. If he's limiting Michkov, he'd be limiting Zegras, right? They're both skilled players. And so Trevor Zegras is doing what he has to defensively, still showing all that creativity offensively. We've seen it time and time again. He's already had 5 or 6 highlight reel passes and goals. And on shootouts, he's almost unstoppable. So he's been fun to watch, a huge addition, and a big reason why the Flyers have been closer to a playoff spot than not here through the first quarter.
Now, looking at last game, I think disappointing in a few ways, but really because of the offensive outburst they had 2 days prior, you're thinking, all right, let's see a little more of this. And then they get shut out for the first time this season, Jim. And I thought Sean Couturier, I appreciated his accountability after the game on post-game live. He talked about taking some blame for his line. He thought his line with Matvei Michkov and Bobby Brink gave up a couple of man rushes the other way. It turned into goals for the Lightning, and the Flyers lose 3-0. Did you appreciate Couturier's accountability there? And, Jim, is that what you saw as well?
Yeah, I mean, Coots is a very accountable player. I mean, I think he's going to be very careful with what he says to the media for the rest of this year after the one incident where he was simply answering the question about what Matvei Michkov has to work on, and all of a sudden it became he was blistering him, which he wasn't. He was saying this is where he has to improve, where he is improving. And but I think Coots now will probably be pretty careful with what he says, but he's always been an accountable player, and he's a player who's acutely aware of how the game's supposed to be played from a forward standpoint, from a center standpoint. Defensively, you've got to always be on the right side of the puck, and when his line isn't, it bothers him. And so I'm not surprised that he would say that. I mean, he did actually. Michkov ended up with 3 scoring chances. It's not like the line was a complete disaster in that game, but they were on ice for some goals, and Coots does not like that. Selke Trophy winners generally don't. So I'm not surprised at all, and I would expect he would react that way if his line's on the ice for goals against. And he also wants to contribute offensively. It's been a long time since Coots has scored, so I think that frustration is kind of building with him as well. He has had a bunch of assists, but still sitting at 2 goals. So there's some frustration there. But in general, I think that was pretty much par for the course for Coots. Not happy with his line being on ice for goals against. That's just part of his MO.
It definitely is. And I thought he even took some blame for maybe Matvei Michkov too. And I looked at the first goal, Brendan Hagel's redirection in front, and if you look at the coverage in the defensive zone, Couturier and Michkov both go towards Kucherov, and then Kucherov finds the wide open man for the shot. Hagel redirects it. I'm not blaming Michkov there, but I just think these are going to be some of the lumps with Matvei Michkov. He's a highly talented offensive player, but there might be some times defensively where he's not perfect. And Couturier, I don't think he said anything about Michkov. He basically said, my line has to be better. I'll take blame. Do you think that's kind of part of being a captain, Jim, is that you're going to have to do that sometimes?
I think that's part of being a captain. I think it's part of Coots showing he's a quick study. Yeah. I think that's part of basically Coots just being a realist. Yeah. And Matvei Michkov is not the only player on the Flyers who had defensive breakdowns in that game and throughout the season. I mean, there's been breakdowns by including Trevor Zegras. I mean, it's just that there are offensive players out there who aren't as good defensively that are, and then it really comes down to as a coach and as a coaching staff, are you willing to sacrifice an occasional defensive hiccup for all the offense some of these players bring? And that's really the balance you have to weigh. But the other thing is, if the Flyers' energy level was higher, if the Flyers had their forechecking game going, if the Flyers had their transition game going in the game against Tampa, they may have scored 3 or 4 goals. We wouldn't be talking about every little defensive breakdown because they would have won, 4-2 or 3-2 and not lost with the empty net or 3-0. I mean, when you are in these low-scoring games, the goaltenders and players who are out there on the ice when you give up goals are all under such a spotlight because every single goal against is vital, right? Well, Flyers scored 3 goals instead of none. We're not talking about any breakdowns there. We're talking about whoever scored the goals, and Sam Harrison was good and got the win instead of a loss. So, it's really winning is the best deodorant out there. Scoring goals can help erase some of the goals that you allow in terms of what everybody's focusing on. And the Flyers certainly want to get back to the attack mode they had against New Jersey the game before Tampa. I thought I saw them forechecking a little bit differently in that game. Did not see it against Tampa, so I'm not sure if it's a system thing or whether they just weren't following the system, just an energy level thing. It's possible. Beginning with their first long road trip of the season, they were maybe subconsciously kind of pacing themselves, 4 games and 6 nights in 4 different cities. Sometimes in your mind, you're like, okay, let's pace it. Well, you can't pace yourself in the NHL because if you do, the team's going to beat you. And Tampa was a hungry team, missing some key players. So they had everybody on board for that game. They knew they had to have everybody going to win because they were missing so many guys, Victor Hedman and Braden Point and so many others. So they were drilled. They were in. Cooper's a great coach. He had them ready. Todd thought he had his team ready. And sometimes when you go on the road and you're beginning that first long road trip, you're kind of in a mode of, all right, we'll get ourselves into this. I will say this. One of the consistent issues for the Flyers this year has been their starts. They did have the great start in Montreal. They had the 4-goal first period against the Devils, but that was after they gave up the first goal. They haven't been really a great team right out of the gate in games. And so, again, through 21 games, every team has had so many things, good, bad, ugly, it's just been all over the place. So you're trying to find something that's been a consistent theme, and I think that's one for the Flyers. They've given up the first goal, 8 straight games, I believe 14 out of the 21. So that's a trend. That's not one that they like. They're falling behind. They've been so good at coming from behind and as resilient as any team in the NHL, and that's a great sign too, but you can't keep doing it every night. You got to play from the lead a little bit more, and so let's look for them in the rest of this road trip. Challenging trip, Florida, the Island, the Devils. Islanders are playing great hockey. Florida, the 2-time defending champs, and New Jersey's going to be really hungry for revenge. So it's a challenging trip, but let's see if the Flyers can get off to better starts in games and actually get that first goal. It frees everything up. It just makes everything seem better in the game if you score first. They've shown they can win when not scoring first, but I think the coaching staff would like them to see it from the other side a little bit more consistently, getting that first goal and playing from the lead a little bit more.
They are 8-5-2 when trailing first. So that's 15 of 21 games where they have fallen behind. That's such a good point, Jim.
That's 15. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So
can't even keep up the count. And that's, given 8-5-2, which is the best points percentage in the NHL in that situation, they lead the league 9 comeback wins. They lead the league 5 third-period comeback wins. So they've shown us they don't give up on games. They're resilient. And that is huge as we move forward in the season. But those numbers are a little high for this early in the season, and they just need to play from the lead a little bit more often.
So the Flyers will get a chance to get right back at it against the 2-time defending champs in Sunrise, Florida. Jim Jackson will have the call on NBC Sports Philadelphia. And Jim, another big storyline, it's about a guy that's not playing right now. Nikita Grebenkin. He's been a healthy scratch in 5 of the last 6 games. And I just think a lot of fans are wondering why a young player is sitting so much. Now, Jim, I can somewhat understand the last 2 or 3 games. The fourth line was really effective, and I think Tocchet wanted to keep rolling with that. But where do you see the Grebenkin situation right now? Do you think he'll eventually have to go back to Lehigh Valley and get some games?
Yeah, it's very interesting when you look at the makeup of the Flyers right now. They have an established top 9 that's hard to bust into. And Nikita Grebenkin, or you hear calls for Alex Bump, Denver Barkey, all these guys who are lighting it up in the minors. But those guys are guys you'd want to see play in the top 9. There's just no spot for them right now. Knock on wood, the Flyers are healthy up front. They only have 1 injury right now, and it's Rasmus Ristolainen on defense. So I think the Flyers want him playing. So I would think that if this is going to be the way she rolls in terms of the lineup, and the fourth line still giving Rick Tocchet what he wants, then I think you've got to think about sending Grebenkin down and get him back on the ice because he's 22. I've really liked what I've seen from him. I sometimes was surprised after certain games where he wasn't in the lineup the next day. But again, Rick Tocchet knows this team better than I do. And also, as you mentioned, this last time when he put Nick Delorier in, that third line had a really good couple of games where they spent a lot of time in the offensive zone. They were physical. And so it was tough to break them up. And then you're not going to break them up after you score 6 goals against New Jersey. And Nick Delorier, the team is 8-2-1 when he plays. So, he's clearly not costing the team wins. They have a very good record when he plays. It was 8-1-1 until last night. So, it's a tough situation. Grebenkin could get sent down, and then one of the 9 forwards could get hurt. He'd be right back up here. So But if he's going to sit, if he's not going to play with any young player, Danny said this many times, Danny Brewer said this many times, you want him playing. So I would assume that if this keeps up much longer, he'll go back to Lehigh Valley and get some ice time, because that's what he needs at this stage of his career.
I have also really liked Grebenkin. I've liked him since rookie camp, and I do think he should be playing. I prefer him playing over not. But, Jim, I agree with you. When I look at the top 9, I didn't see a spot for where it was clear-cut he should be playing. A couple guys I could think of, Christian Dvorak, but he's been way too valuable, I think, to move down on the 4th line. And Owen Tippett, maybe when he was in his funk, you could have done that, but now he's been pretty hot over his last 4 to 5 games. So where do you play him higher in the lineup? I think the biggest argument you can make is he needs to at least be on the 4th line, but that's not even ideal for his development. Down Lehigh, he would probably be playing pretty big minutes down there.
There's no doubt he would play big minutes, and I mean, that's what you want. I mean, that's what they wanted with Jet Luchenko, right? When they sent him back to junior, get him to play big minutes, and that's what he's doing. And I don't think Grebenkin's numbers will be quite as big as Jet's in the OHL, but he would get regular shifts. He would be on, I would assume, on at least one of the power play units down in Lehigh Valley. So, I mean, really, for a guy like that, as long as he's getting power play time, getting a regular shift, that's the kind of ice time at this stage of his career he wants. If the Flyers maybe foresee him getting into the lineup on a more regular basis up here, maybe he stays. But certainly of late, you gave the numbers. He has not been in the lineup. So I would think that if it goes on much longer, he would be back with Lehigh Valley. And there's plenty of veterans down there. Grunstrom comes to mind, who could come up and be the extra forward here and still be a guy you could plug into the lineup here who could be serviceable, but not a prospect who's not getting the ice time.
So we will see if the Flyers have a decision on their hands soon, but Grebenkin is still with the team as we record this podcast. And Jim, maybe he perhaps gets into the lineup as the Flyers have 3 and 4 sandwiched around Thanksgiving, a busy stretch for them, and they're coming off a loss. So we'll see if Grebenkin gets a chance to give them a jolt. But, Jim, a quarter way into the season, overall, big picture, how do you feel about this team under Tocchet? If you were given a 11-7-3 record before the season started, 21 games in, would you have taken that?
I would have. By that math, they're on a high 90-point pace, right? Until the loss in Tampa, I believe they were on a 100-point pace. So that should get you in the playoffs or very close if you're, 98, 99 points, right? My math's right there, 25 times 4, right? So, I mean, that part of it, if you're looking at it from just that focus, is fine. When you look at what they've done defensively, you have to be happy. They're still among the league leaders in fewest shots allowed. They're in the top 10 in terms of fewest goals allowed per game. The power play has improved. The penalty kill has been very good. Lots of positives. The one, if you want to call it negative, is they just haven't been consistent offensively, and that's something they're continuing to work at. So in general, I would say yes, good start. If they had won the game in Tampa, they would have matched their best 21-game start since 2010. So, I mean, they have really accomplished a lot, just looking for that offensive consistency. As far as the league, everyone, as we said right off the hop here today, is so even that they haven't cost themselves in the standings at all. They're right there. So solid first quarter, things to work on for sure, but in a pretty good spot.
Will be interesting to see the Flyers go into this next quarter of the season in this busy.
I will say this, Jordan, not to interrupt you. They have been home a lot in the first quarter, so they're going to have to show they can win on the road. Now, they did have some nice road wins, but the last couple of road games, Dallas, Tampa Bay, have not been their best games. So they are going to have to – they've only – they went into last night the fewest amount of road games in the league, tied with Toronto. So they've got a lot of road games coming up, and they're going to have to show they can do it on the road, which is usually a little bit more difficult. So that is one of the challenges ahead.
I could not agree more, especially, Jim, with this 3 and 4. And Rick Tocchet has talked a lot about, can your team win with its B game or its C game? Can it win on a second night of a back-to-back when you don't have your best? And I don't think we've seen the Flyers really have to go through that a whole lot yet. So it'll be really intriguing to see how they do it here. Busy stretch on the road. Can we see some growth there? I think that will be certainly interesting to watch.
It will be. They've only had 2 back-to-backs. They lost both of them and did not have their best games. So, yeah, that remains a challenge. What 1-12-2, 1-11-2, something like that since the start of last year in the second half of back-to-backs. They've got, I believe, 14 this year, so they're going to have to get better at those. There's no way around it, and that's what Rick Tocchet talks about. You're not going to be at your best a lot of times in the second half of back-to-backs. You're going to be tired. The other team, in many cases, is going to be fresh or more fresh, so they have to find out a way to at least be closer to break even. They don't necessarily have to be juggernauts in that situation, but at least closer to break even. And that's one of the other challenges they face with so many of those back-to-backs still ahead.
Well, Jim, thank you so much, as always, for coming on. Always appreciate your insight, your time, and we look forward to your call in Florida. A big thank you as well to Spencer McKercher and Tom Feiner for helping us here on the Flyers Talk podcast. Jim, thank you again. And Flyers fans, as always, thank you so much for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen, and we cannot wait to talk to you next time.